Welcome, everyone, to Leaders Learning Live, the October edition. Thank you for taking an hour out of your day to continue your leadership development with us. We have a fantastic program. If you are interested in enhancing the research culture, growing it, and thinking about how you can support this work on your campus, you are in the right place and you are in good company. And so my name is Carolyn Matiski. I serve as the director here at the SAIL Institute. I will be monitoring your questions in the chat. If you have thoughts, comments, questions, things that you'd like them to chew on and respond to, please put it in the chat, and I'm happy to make sure that our panelists address your concerns. With that, I will share my screen so you can see just a little bit of housekeeping. Let's see here. Okay, you are in the right place for Leaders Learning Live. This is a monthly program, and we have two more programs for later this calendar year. Mediation, What to Do is our November topic, which always makes me laugh because I think of Thanksgiving and the family getting together, and those are important skills on a professional and a personal level. Hopefully you'll join us on the third Thursday next month. And then our last program for this year is Community Colleges SUNY's Hidden Treasure. So join us back for those, and there is more information on our website. We also have a full library of topics that we have covered over the years on our YouTube channel. So today's program will be recorded and added to that on-demand library. So if you have new staff that you would like to bring up to speed with some of these things or revisit for yourself in your own development, I encourage you to check out the ongoing calendar and also the library to continue your learning. These are our learning objectives, which I will, at this point, introduce our moderator so that he can sort of introduce the topic and how we will approach this today. But we are joined by the Senior Leadership Fellow for the SAIL Institute. He is a friend of the Institute for many years and supporting SUNY campuses with his executive coaching and leadership development, and has a lot of subject matter expertise when it comes to operationalizing research for SUNY. So you are going to have a moderator, Gary Sanders, for today's topic. Welcome, Gary.
Thank you, Carolyn. Appreciate that.
Would you like me to keep the objectives up on the screen or take those away?
No, why don't you take those away so we can be with each other, but
Great.
Thank you much. Appreciate it. And thank everyone for making time today to join us. It's it's funny when I saw this topic, I thought to myself, is there one research culture? And remembering my days working at the Research Foundation earlier this century, I thought, is there truly one culture? And so to help us explore that question amongst others, I'm thrilled to have with me today two wonderful members of our research administration community, Jennifer Iacobucci, who is Director of Strategic Programs and Partnerships and the SUNY Office of Research, Innovation, and Economic Development. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I thought I was muted for a second. Just a little bit more about my background. Before I joined SUNY System about 18 months ago, I was the Assistant Vice President of Research at SUNY Polytechnic Institute as it existed then, which kind of gives me a little bit of a unique spin, working with two campuses, one that had a long history of intense research and one that was trying to grow their research. So I'm excited to be able to share experiences. I see several familiar faces on the screen. Looking forward to our discussion today. Thank you.
Jen, thanks so much. And with Jen and I is Betsy Colon, who is a friend over many years. Betsy, I'm not going to embarrass the two of us with how long it's been. but say that your background as Director of Sponsored Programs Operation at SUNY Geneseo with grants management is a really important perspective to share today. And I invite you to share some more background, if you wish, with our.
Yes, I'm going to start off with an hola to everyone. I'm really excited to be here. So SUNY Geneseo is a public liberal arts college. We're in a very beautiful rural setting, and we're a very small institution. So what that means is many of us research administrators, we wear many hats here on campus. So it's interesting how we can bounce around real quick between pre and post award. And we are a very tight-knit group. So I'm excited to share some of those perspectives. I've been with SUNY Geneseo 18 years, and this has been my full-time career, is doing research administration for this campus. So with that, I look forward to chatting with all of you.
Betsy, thanks so much. So let's get to it. We're going to do this. I guess in my vision, we were going to kind of do this like a podcast in a way. The only PowerPoint that you're going to see is the one Carolyn just did for us, and the rest of this will be conversation. And as Carolyn says, she's going to listen to your comments and questions and share them with us. So let's kind of get to it. So I posed a question about what is a successful research culture, and you both come from different institutions and different perspectives, and yes, it's within the same system, but I'm curious what actually makes for a successful research culture in your experience. So, Chen, maybe I can start with you and then go to Betsy.
I think that one of the key things that is needed to build a transformational or successful research culture is buy-in at multiple levels, especially the leadership level. Generally, I think that if there is not a strong research culture, it's the faculty who tend to drive the desire. They're the ones that will have to do the work in the end, right? But we also need a buy-in from leadership to really incentivize the entire community around growing research. And take a minute here and talk a little bit about the Chancellor and Governor's recent call for SUNY to double their research. So this is something we're really hoping that we can get our campus leaders engaged in and enthusiastic about, is the idea of continuing to grow and transform SUNY's research. So having that buy-in from the leadership so that the faculty and staff know that there is going to be an investment in doing what they need to do, not just in helping to provide grant opportunities, but also within the campus to provide infrastructure and supporting staff in the research administration realm.
So a lot of this sounds like it's top-down driven, right? From the governor and the budget availability and the advocacy for funds to support research, and talking about the support of leadership for sure. How about faculty in this? Faculty obviously have to buy in. So what's your insights on that? I have a few, and I know we'll go to Betsy in a second, but what's your thoughts on getting faculty engaged in all this?
I think that faculty who are interested in doing research are going to be, kind of the easiest ones to engage. And then hopefully from there, we might be able to spread out a little further. But those that are interested and ambitious about going into research that haven't had those opportunities before really need to know that they're going to be supportive in order for research to grow and for them to be successful researchers themselves. If they don't have access to professional development or the supports that they need to get their grants in, or students to help work on those grants, and leadership doesn't seem invested in those sorts of supports, it's going to be hard to move the needle. So their buy-in and their desire and their want to do it is critical. So that is true. I'll pass it to Betsy.
Yes, I agree with everything. The leadership support, talking it up. A couple things that came to mind are clear objectives. What are we trying to achieve based on our culture? The important factor that also comes to mind is that our sponsored research offices and our grants management office, we are important partners to our project directors looking to develop a research program. And so what that means to me is, you know, hiring a skilled personnel to assist our community with this grant life cycle, because yes, the moment of the proposal is great, but there's this time frame in managing it, and the partnership between pre and post award is so critical, in my opinion, that functions smoothly, and that all of us have a visible presence on campus, and, you know, being good communicators with them, letting them know that we're here to support them on many levels. We have a group that I'm going to shout out right now. It's called the Research Council, and this council is a representation of teaching faculty from each academic department. So this council has been in existence for some time. Right now it has 24 members. They keep us in line with much of our research success, and because they're faculty, they know the desires and things. So having some councils and people in place to help make and design that clear objective of what we're trying to do.
Betsy, I think it'd be interesting. Thank you both. Betsy, I think it'd be interesting to hear more about the Research Council and how they.
Oh, gosh, yes. Would you like? Yes, I would love to share.
Yeah, please.
So this council is a representation. It has a member from the teaching faculty of each academic department. Currently, we have 24 members. There's a chair, a vice chair, and I believe a secretary who takes minutes. Those minutes are published. And there's a constitution for this council. And then there are 3 non-voting members, director of sponsored research, a representative from the Finance and Administration Office, and another representative from a teaching and learning center. We're there to oversee things as far as policy procedures, but we don't vote. The council's main function is to encourage and promote research and scholarly activities on the campus. And what that means is that the group truly helps us set research direction in connection with our leadership, our president and the vice presidents. They initiate programs that will aid researchers and scholars. They review applications for a lot of our internal grants, and they assist with finding funds and coming up with ideas to keep this flowing and active. And they do, it's a 3-year term for each member. And I think what's beautiful is everyone is represented at the table. And a research council, I believe, is so critical in the success. Also because we are partnering with them as administrative assistant, as research administrators. And it's a good foundation, I believe.
Yeah, there's something about that just feels good, and I'm trying to think to myself, why does it feel good? And a part of it is, I think it lessens the sense that it's just and air quotes the leaders of the institutions that care about research. It's actually more within the culture itself, and so much so that there's even a committee set up to pay attention to it. So it
Yes.
just, connected. So for those folks that are on our call now that are new to thinking about research culture and enhancing it, and or else even if you're not new to it, but you're looking for some new ways to expand the footprint of research at your institution, how do you begin to assess themes that might be fertile to go after? How do you go about that sort of assessment? Maybe I'll start back with Jen again for that.
Yeah, I think that this would be an important exercise for these campuses to undertake to really get their ear to the ground with the faculty, and what it is that they're interested in, what it is that their strength in their fields of expertise are, and aligning those strengths with actual federal funding priorities. So, the annual or semi-annual reports that come out from places like NSF and NIH, or even out of the CHIPS Acts, to make sure that you are tapping into the opportunities that are going to have the biggest impact on what your campus's strengths are. So I think that engaging in an activity like that, some sort of surveys or focus groups on your campus to get that information, see where the interest is and where the strengths are. If you're trying to build, if you're trying to grow, you probably already know who's interested in research and a decent amount of their strengths. But I think it's always a good idea to check in, especially if you've done recent hiring, or had any shifts in, department chairs or deans or things like that, to see what areas can really take that capacity and bring it to the next level. But also with that, just because people are interested in it doesn't always mean that the government is going to fund it. So you really want to connect that alignment with federal funding priorities. That would be my first suggestion to getting off the ground, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm laughing as I say this because I totally agree with you, right? And so, oftentimes what happens is that it's the loudest faculty member or the most persistent that makes the case for research, and so having a data informed approach is probably the best way to think institutionally about these things. So I'm cheering you on for that, actually.
Yes, we're big fans of database decision making here at System.
Yeah. Well, in the absence of that, by the way, if you hear screaming babies, don't be alarmed. I have my two granddaughters here. One is 6 months and one is 7 months. So if you hear the screaming in the background, please don't call the authorities. It's okay. Betsy, over to you. So what's your sense? How do you at Geneseo think of which areas to go after, I guess, for research?
We have a full-time proposal developer. Her name is Susanna Rubright. So she meets with new faculty and conducts interviews, and that happens right at the get-go. And from there, it just keeps building, keeping in touch with them, soliciting more information from the faculty, department chairs. We do Google surveys. We do an annual report, and that will build. But I believe what Susanna does extremely well is meeting them from the moment these folks are brought on board, because that connection, they see us, they meet with us, it's a face-to-face meeting, and then the follow-up she does is quick within the next few months. So that, I think, is a critical piece in connecting with your new faculty.
Yeah, there's a personal connection there, which probably enhances somebody's willingness to take that leap. And it sounds like that. I'm not sure if it's mentorship really, or it's a peer type of relationship, but that's got to be helpful.
I do want to add that I did some research on this for the new folks entering our career. There's 2 online resources, and this was given to me by Susanna, so I'm just going to pass it along. One of the online resources is called Grantsmanship Center, and that offers a lot of training program courses on grant writing and searches. And then the other one is Get Ed Funding, and that's known as a grant finding resource wizard. So I'm just throwing that out because it's in my notes, and if there's anyone new, that's always helpful.
Thank you for that. So there's probably lots of ways, right, to find and disseminate relevant grant opportunities, right? So you just mentioned the Grantsmanship Center, and there's other things. So outside of like just sending bulk emails to everybody. I mean, but maybe that is the best practice these days. I don't know. How else would you make the connection between possible research opportunities and potential applicants at your institutions? What tends to work?
I don't know if bulk emailing is the best practice, but it certainly does seem to be the current practice. I would say that when there are opportunities that we've come across at System that seem particularly interesting, these are usually larger opportunities. We do disseminate them out from the Office of Research, Innovation, and Economic Development. But then we're hoping that you will also share them with experts on campus. Not everyone is getting every email all of the time. So there does need to be, in my opinion, some sort of collaborative approach to sharing opportunities, because it takes a lot of time and effort that I think most people on this call don't have to look through all of those opportunities and to kind of curate your lists of emails that you'll get from places like NSF or NIH or private funding areas to actually be useful to you. So I do think this is an area of a challenge. I think a great thing that would be is if they could kind of auto-populate on a website that that matches your faculty's capacity. That's like kind of a pie in the sky dream for, I think, a lot of institutions. But in the interim, I think a lot of it is just remembering that these opportunities are out there. Take a little bit of time to go through some of those emails that might end up in your other box, and have conversations with your colleagues about what they have found lately, because I think that some of those, that way you have a network of people that are discovering these opportunities, talking about them, sharing them, and taking them seriously. And then beyond that, having someone able to translate a lot of what is actually in that call into just, plain English, like this is the gist of it, this is who's eligible, this is the amount of the award. I know it often says that in the beginning, but there's also a lot of words and a lot of technical things, and a busy faculty does not always have time to parse that out. So those are some of the suggestions I would think of.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I did have some experience with the process of trying to summarize funding opportunities the way you're describing, Jen, and that does a couple things. To your point, it does help ease the burden a bit for the faculty to go through it. On the other side, it helps the faculty have more of a connection with the research administrators, because they know that the research administrators have some sense of care and duty of care for them, that they took the time to do that, to summarize something. So it actually does filter back into a sense of service. So I want to jump to a couple things here. We have a request, Betsy, the link to the Grantsmanship Center, if anybody can find that, or we can send it after, but that would be helpful. And we have a question from Michelle. Betsy, how does the Research Council and the proposal developer work together, if at all? And is the Research Council a part of the formal governance structure of Geneseo? Is it basically in the bylaws somewhere, or is it an ad hoc or special committee? So I'll turn it to you.
That's interesting. I will have to follow up if it is governance. I would have to follow up on that. Regarding the part with the proposal developer and the Research Council is truly a group that oversees awards and internal funding awards. They're not there writing proposals, so that's a separate activity altogether. Does that make sense? I hope. The person can contact me too on a side note to talk more about the Research Council if they would like to.
would be great. Let's see, this is Michelle from Senior Campaign. I was just curious as to whether or not it was an actual listed committee, if you will, in the bylaws. Probably not, but I just was curious as to whether or not that was part of that formal structure.
Okay, so we have some other questions coming into there's a question about processes that may be in place where student researchers working with faculty can receive grants or I'm sorry, can they receive academic credit for working on a grant, basically? Does anyone have a experience with that?
I think this varies by institution,
Yes.
and also probably by program within that institution. So this is probably something you'd want to bring up with your faculty governance and provost office, but including experiential learning into academic programs is something that a lot of places do and a lot of campuses do, and having those grants is essential to providing those experiences. And those experiences can be really transformative to students, you know, as a capstone or even earlier on in their academic career to kind of show them an option. And I have seen examples of both credit bearing and non-credit bearing research experiences through grant funded research.
Correct.
And I see Deborah writes and says that they use independent studies for their credit. There's probably other ways of doing it, but I would definitely be in contact with the academic side of the house to actually not just to ask about it, but maybe to advocate for it if you don't have it. Maybe that's sort of implied even in the question. Okay.
Gary, excuse me, I believe they're referred to like directive studies and they can receive credits for that.
Uh-huh. All right. Okay, good. So let me keep going here because so let's say we get faculty to be interested in applying for grants. All right, so let's say they're willing to jump into the breach. And what tools can you recommend to help people overcome some of the common obstacles that are there for proposal writing and development? Some of this is the technical challenge. It's not just the emotional leap to say, all right, I'm going to put myself out there with a grant proposal, but the how do I do it? So do you have any recommendations for tools? Betsy, maybe we'll start with you and then go.
Yes, so the biggest obstacle that we hear is the time. So it's the proposal writing and the development piece that is the struggle. So with that being taken into account through our Office of Sponsored Research, they have access to a large variety of support programs and services related to the development of proposals and grants. So we have a lot of internal funding. We have a very large internal funding program. And one of the ones that a faculty member may want to apply for is a proposal writing support award, which will give them time and funding to develop new proposals or to revise or resubmit proposals. So that is one way we assist our faculty with the quote unquote time factor. The second would be the proposal developer that we have full time. You know, that person is here to do a lot of that editing, etc. And then for a larger research award, we have contracted with McAllister and Quinn. For those who are not familiar with them, they're a federal grant consulting and government relations firm. We've used them for larger institutional programs. They mainly work with small and medium institutions like Geneseo. And they have writers that are experts in with a particular sponsor, let's say NSF, National Science Foundation. So we've used them about 4 times per year, and we have acquired the STEM awards from them. But that's a bigger scale option to assist our faculty.
Yeah, and I would say for smaller institutions that don't have perhaps a proposal development unit on their campus, or a formal sponsored programs office. For the sponsored programs side, the Research Foundation Central Office does have some training on that end that can be found through their learning and development group. And there are occasionally opportunities for proposal development and grant writing that come through either SUNY system administration or are being conducted by the larger institutions that have open seats. So I'm just once again going to pitch to look at our emails and see what opportunities exist there for you to join into.
Fair enough. Fair enough. What about some of the technical aspects of writing a good grant proposal? Doing a budget, doing justification of costs. Any homespun hints that you have for these things in your experience?
I'm going to say work with your sponsored programs folks or with RF Central as early as possible. Get in there, let them know what you're doing, let them know what you're thinking so that they can help you, because it is really an art form to develop some of those budgets. But I also will say, do not underestimate the importance of that budget justification as part of your proposal. It might feel redundant when you're doing the writing, but it really is going to help the reviewers really concretely understand how you're going to use the money that you're asking for.
Yeah.
And for us, we have the director of sponsored research office and the proposal developer that works with each faculty member, because those have got to go through their office before going to the signature process with our president, et cetera. So that is always reviewed because there's formatting issues, et cetera, fringes, it's heavily involved. So use your office of sponsored research. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not skip the office of sponsored research.
For those on the call that are in offices of sponsored research, this has been sponsored by the Research Foundation and also SUNY SAIL to make sure that your faculty and others do that. You know, I'll just add to this to say I have been a peer reviewer in my past, and the budgets and the justifications were sort of a way that the reviewers measured the credibility of the applicant.
Mm-hmm.
Did they know what they were asking for and why? And did they make a case for it? And if they couldn't do that well, what did that say about the objectives and the scientific plans for things? So it does kind of feed back into the whole general aura of a grant proposal. So good advice, I believe here. So work in research is very much a collaborative activity, and not just within institutions, but externally, finding collaborators around the world. How do you help your faculty build those types of partnerships so they maybe even have more of a competitive application if they bring in expertise from outside? What advice do you have? Whoever starts first.
For the collaboration, many of them will go to their own institutions. That's where they will start. They will start in their own disciplines. It is a continual process, and it just doesn't end. The collaboration piece just does not end. As you get stronger and more knowledgeable, you will reach out beyond your own institutions. We, of course, assist with that in ways that we know because of the grant funding opportunities that are being sought out, et cetera. But many will start with their own and build from there. Again, meeting the new faculty is critical because that brings in a whole, it gives them the confidence to pursue different things too. So that's a continual process.
It is, and it's one of those items that has a real delayed gratification, I think, in terms of the actual ROI that you're going to see on it. You know, a connection that you make at the beginning of your career could end up being your most productive collaboration 20 years later. So it's important to not forget about the connections that you've made, continue to build those relationships, even if you don't perhaps have a current proposal that you're working on. And I know that any administrators on the call are not going to love this suggestion, but allowing your faculty the opportunity to travel and attend conferences when they can, so that they can not only display their own research, but make those critical connections outside of the institution, so that they can grow and find new and different paths that perhaps they wouldn't have considered, especially when it comes to transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary research.
Yeah, so we're sort of playing a long game here on this. This is not as they mixing my metaphors all over the place, but it's not a sprint. It's a long-term thing to build relationships, and it's probably like any type of partnership. You help out someone else, they help you out, you develop career connections that way.
And I'll just say one other thing for new faculty that are fresh, like having a collaboration doesn't always start with getting a grant. It often starts much more informally, publishing a paper or a study together and establishing for, larger funders like the federal government that you actually do have a relationship with these other professionals that already exist. And that's going to increase your chances of getting a collaborative grant in the future.
That's so important. We really didn't discuss this at all. That of course the grant proposal is sort of like the tip of the iceberg. It's all the work that's happened up until that point. So thank you, Jen, for that, because that's key. You just can't all of a sudden write a grant and without having the case to make, and the case comes from the publications and the prior research. So good point, actually. That does bring up another question about incentives, right? So incentives. So we would like to think that faculty would apply for grants because it's the right thing to do to expand knowledge and all of this, which is of course important. But I think many people are incentive driven. So what works at your campuses when you think about that? Does that actually connect at all? What incentives besides the good of expanding the knowledge base in the world and mentoring some students, what else works?
I'm going to go back to some earlier comments that I made about buy-in from leadership and administration, because those are the folks at your campus that are going to be able to make those incentives for you, whether it means some sort of, summer support, or if your campus offers course buyout. Of course, every campus is unique and has their own needs and their own challenges. But to be able to create those types of incentives, I think it needs to be homegrown, and I think that the faculty often really need to drive the need for that. If the college or if the university is saying, or the campus is saying, we want you to do more research, it's really imperative that the faculty let leadership know what they actually need in order to accomplish that. And sometimes that can be in the form of an incentive.
Sure.
Right.
Betsy.
For SUNY Geneseo, and when I first started here 18 years ago, I was amazed that this college distributes about 10% of their indirects back to their faculty to assist them in various ways. And that could be to pursue other professional memberships, conferences, other travel to meetings, maybe some supply and equipment purchases, student research hires. I mean, the only exception is self-salary. That's the only thing that they cannot do with these funds. So as soon as we are, at the end of the year, when we're given this funds of indirects, 10% goes back to each project director. And that, I was fascinated with that. So that is incentive for them to pursue research. The other thing that we do with these indirects, another 20% or about another additional 20% is distributed to various programs. And those programs could be summer research fellowships, it could be research development awards, undergrad summer research awards. These are the awards that are internal awards where faculty apply and the research council reviews and awards them. So that's an additional 20% from our indirects to develop different programs to keep the momentum going. The other funding source that we have is the Geneseo Foundation and the Student Association. They assist with different things. One of them is the Proposal Writing Support Award, and that one may be for course reassignment, summer salary, etc. So we have a large internal funding program, and that is what the Research Council really oversees, is this level of momentum to keep it going, keeping it creative, and what is the need for this time. So that's a win-win for our faculty here. I enjoy sharing this part of who we are. I really do.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, it's cool.
So let's jump back to student research a little bit. So student success is certainly why we're all here, really. I guess we could say that. So how do you amplify student research to get more students involved? And is there, I just asked the basic question, is there value in that, you know? I mean, I think we probably say yes to that, but let's try to calibrate that. So does it actually work to get more students involved? And so how do you do that?
Yeah, I think that student involvement here is really what makes the whole research operation come full circle in terms of what we've already talked about today, because research isn't just about getting grant money and publishing papers and publishing studies and then getting more grant money. It is critical to the education of students. And I'm not even specifically talking about PhD students here. Summer internship and research opportunity programs can really alter a student's entire academic career and their experience at your institution in an incredibly positive way. It's going to give them skill sets that they didn't have before, and maybe even open their eyes to opportunities, not just within research realm, but with entire industries that they didn't know even existed or were possible for them to break into. So I think it's critical to do that. And then I think another critical part of student development in this area is allowing them to share that research. So having on-campus forums where students that perhaps participated in a particular program at the end of each semester or during their capstone have these opportunities to showcase their research in a poster session or something like that to their peers, to other faculty, make sure the administration's getting involved and coming and seeing the great work that students are doing. There are opportunities for them to do this across the system in terms of like the summer undergraduate research council that has, that they move around each year to a different campus. Like, these are great opportunities for students to get involved in and to see what really cool and interesting things they're learning and their friends are learning in these experiences. And I think that in terms of student involvement, sometimes word of mouth amongst students is probably the quickest way to get the word out there. But yeah, I think it's really fundamental to building like a robust curricula around this student experience. And I'm targeting undergrads on that comment.
Yeah, I have a memory of when I worked at within the SUNY system that there would be like a legislative day organized through the SUNY Faculty Senate that students would go up the hill to the legislature and meet with staff. Sometimes legislators themselves would come through in between meetings, and they would be at students would be at tables to kind of share some of their research interests and things. And I'm sure there were a whole bunch of agendas in that, but it was an interesting experience, I think. Anyway, I'm not sure they do that anymore. But
Yeah.
So we have a question for Betsy, and so like if you're comfortable with this, Betsy, there's a question sharing how many people are in your office, trying to get a sense of scale and scope. So
Okay.
you probably don't have an org chart in your back pocket there, but
Yes, I do. Of course I do. There's 4 of us, and there are 2 in our pre-award, 2 in our post. We have designed ourselves to be together in one suite, even though we report to different divisions of the institution, meaning the post-award reports to the finance and administration and the pre to the academic. However, no one would know that. We've created a one-stop shop. We pretty much, but we've worked together for so long, we know each other so well, so we fill in for each other where we can. So it's a good situation for Geneseo.
yeah, I think what you described is sort of the highest ground you can get in this pre and post award.
Yes.
But
I do want to,
years,
Jen,
but
I want to talk a little bit about the students, because you said something that triggered something for our campus that I want to share with the people in the audience. So the student research is so important to promote, to get it out there. Jen, you used the word showcase, and we have a flagship program, and one of our biggest, we're so proud of this event. Kudos to Ann Baldwin out there. It's called Great Day, and what that means is Geneseo recognizing excellence, achievement, and talent. And what we have done here, it's been in existence since 2007. It's a college-wide symposium. There are no classes that day, and what we're truly doing is celebrating the creative and scholarly endeavors of our students. And that means tons of poster presentations, music, all types of activity happens on this campus. It occurs in April. And I look back at our statistics in this past April, we had 62 sessions. We had 369 presentations. We had 799 student presentations, 1,246 in attendance. It is a huge event. We're very proud of it. We get a keynote speaker. It is funded by endowments, etc. But that is something to consider, is to showcase what your students are doing and promoting what we're doing. And it also builds your community, because your faculty will be there and everyone just comes together and recognizes that what we do is incredible. So I wanted to throw that one out there before we moved on to the next question.
Yeah, that's amazing, Betsy.
I
That's
love
a
it.
really incredible turnout. I will
Yeah.
say, make sure if you're doing something like this, get your press people involved.
Yes.
And with the current chancellor's very focused initiatives on student success and student experiences, contact the SUNY press people and get them involved as well. They are very keen on being able to showcase student experiences these days. So this is really a window of opportunity to broaden your exposure, I will say.
Yeah.
Just a little tidbit for everyone.
So Dr. Ann Baldwin, she's grown it along with her peers, but really it is something that each campus could do. It does not have to be at this scale, but it's a start to foster this student research, but it broadens it beyond research. It's just tremendous programs going on, and no class. It's a day full of joy and just loving what we do.
Awesome.
yeah, now to Ann Baldwin, who is on this call, I believe.
Oh, is she there? Hi, Ann.
Ann, I don't want to have to draw you out, but just if you had something you wish to add, that's great. You're getting kudos from lots of folks here. So, what you're both bringing up in terms of highlighting research, highlighting student involvement, helping faculty think of their work beyond just the perimeters of the campus and things. It's such a core role for research administrators, this connecting people, connecting students, connecting faculty, connecting sponsors, collaborators. It's that skill set, right, is something that even in the recruitment of research administrators and leaders, that's something I remember as just a key skill to be able to cultivate and learn and share. So thank you for bringing up that skill set. For me, actually, it was one of the nicest things about the career. So so let me ask a question. What advice would you have for leaders of a research function or an office in SUNY, any of the campuses, to really develop a research identity? So I don't know necessarily how you define that, but maybe career planning, research, outreach. So I guess it's about creating a brand and an identity for research. So basically, if your campus doesn't already have that, or if you want to change that identity in some way, how do you go about that? Does that make sense? If not, we can go to another question.
Oh, I think it does. And I think something that's really important here, I just had previously mentioned on like external exposure, but if you're trying to build an identity or change it, I think it's important, equally as important, to have internal exposure for your folks. And I know a lot of campuses, departments can end up working in silos. They don't know what's going on in other units. They don't know how successful other people are being. And if they're not being recognized at higher levels, even within your own campus community, it's going to be really hard to shift that identity. So a concerted effort, I think, needs to be made internally to, remind the campus that so-and-so has gotten this award or has published this item. And then beyond that, provide your faculty opportunities to get together, coffee hours, like a research kind of brown bag lunch for people to talk about ideas, for them to have their own internal speaker series, perhaps. These are great ways to get folks engaged with each other. And now that hopefully COVID is over, whatever that means, knock on wood, and we could do that in person, I think that those connections can be really strong. But you also have to go at it intentionally. You have to know what you want your outcome to be and what the goal is of the identity that you're trying to build as you kind of put into place those sorts of programs.
Okay, well, maybe we have time maybe for one wrap-up question here, and you're probably going to laugh at this one, but let's say that the chancellor, Jen, president of SUNY Geneseo, Betsy, walked down the hall and said, "I have $100,000 that I can give your operation, with the main goal being to improve the research culture, to help increase our funding, our applications, all that." I know with just a couple minutes, right, you can't have a detailed answer to this, but is there like a first thought that like comes to mind to say, yeah, if we could only do this, what would that be? There's no wrong answer here, right? So
I would ask the chancellor for way more than $100,000. If I may be so bold. But I think the current hot button issue here now, lately, I guess, has been upgrading of research infrastructure across the system. I think that is a key and foundational issue that really needs to be addressed. And that kind of spending isn't always the easiest to get by the legislators. But I think it's critically important if we're going to be able to reach our goal of doubling research across the system.
fair enough. Betsy, did that stimulate anything for you?
It does stimulate, because upgrading is where I believe we need to be. And with that, we talk a lot about automating things. We're moving fast. Everyone's on the go. We're all sensing a bit of burnout. We know that. So the 100,000, thank you, Chancellor. We will spend it and we'll develop the plan and get back to you. We are going to upgrade.
Well, when anybody sees the chancellor, you can tell him Carolyn came up with the idea. So All
Yes.
right. Well, with that, let me thank Jennifer and Betsy for your ideas and conversations and good humor today. So thank you.
Yes.
And over to you, Carolyn.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Jennifer and Betsy. And thanks to the audience for putting your questions in the chat and keeping this engaging. We would love to know your thoughts about today's program, and we're always looking for suggestions for future topics. So we have 2 more planned for this year, but the 2024 calendar is yet to be built. So if you have ideas and things that you'd like us to discuss in this forum, we're happy to take on your suggestions and put together a conversation so you can continue your professional leadership development. So thank you so much, Gary. You did a great job keeping us focused on our objectives, and we hope that this has been a good use of your hour, and we look forward to seeing you next month for mediation.
All
Thank
right.
you, everyone.
Take care. Thank you all.